don't wait until you perfect, only get listed. You need to get ready and then grow over the time. Your competitor will not wait for you. Your competitor will get listed first.
Today, we have an international guest, Jaylvin Chan. He's been on both sides, meaning as the CFO of 2 Nasdaq-listed companies, and now he's on the other side, working with companies to get listed. And he is currently the executive director of Astute Advisory. He's based in Malaysia. I was told that a lot of the foreign issuers, they have the money. So why then do they want to come to the US? Is it just because it's the world stage, or am I wrong?
One of the motivation is because the global market looking into investing into US capital. So because, first of all, not only the prestige, the name of a listed co, but also the capital flow into the capital market.
Good morning. Welcome to the podcast. And today we have an international guest. And I'm super excited to introduce all of you to Jaylvin Chan. And he built his career on both sides of the equations, meaning at first, well, he'll give us the journey, but he's been on both sides, meaning as the CFO of 2 Nasdaq-listed companies. And now he's on the other side, working with companies to get listed. And he is currently the executive director of Astute Advisory. And he's based in Malaysia, or that's at least where I'm speaking to him from today. And he's going to give us all the good, the bad, and the ugly about getting a company public, what it's like to IPO as a foreign issuer here in the US. And I'm sure that the number of takeaways of information and practical, tangible to do is going to be really, really worthwhile. So, Jaylvin, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today.
Thank you,
So
Seth.
I wanna jump right in. I mean, you and I met by working together when you were with publicly traded companies, and we were transfer agent. So I guess before we get into the background and how you got to where you are today, why don't you just give us a little bit of a snapshot, maybe about Astute Advisory or what you're doing today, and then we'll back into the history.
Okay, Ken, no problem. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of the guest for today's sharing sections. So basically, Astute is an IPO advisor that help Malaysian companies, specifically in Malaysia, to list their company in Nasdaq or MYSE. So there are a lot of Malaysia great company. They don't know about Nasdaq, or maybe like they don't know how to jumpstart their listing exercise. That's why that's why Astute, we as an IPO advisory, to help them get listed. And definitely before listed, a lot of housekeeping we need to do. Then we will guide them throughout the whole IPO journey.
I think you raise a good point, because a lot of people think that when they want to do an IPO, it's just a matter of going through the process. But the word that you used was housekeeping. There's a lot of preparation that goes into getting to that point, and that's some of the things that I wanna jump into. But first, I have to tell you, I'm fascinated always, and somebody like yourself, where you're from another country, you deal with different cultures. You didn't like learn about Nasdaq and New York Stock Exchange while you were there. Give us a little bit about, what kind of education you had. How did you decide that you wanted to get into the capital markets?
Okay, it's very interesting questions. So I'm Malaysians. So the nearest stock exchange will be in Busan, Malaysia. So this is quite famous in our local country. So when I engaged by a company, my boss, my superior asked me, Jaylvin, I want to list my company in any stock exchange. Please do a proper analysis and present it to me when I was the CFO of the company. So I did a lot of analysis, including local Busan, Malaysia, including Singapore exchange, including Hong Kong exchange, and also Australia exchange. So when I look into the whole bigger market, like the different stock exchange, I also realized that there is a stock exchange called Nasdaq or NYSE. So from there, I start my journey to learn more about this another part of the world compared to Malaysia's. So I learned what is their requirement, what is their attractiveness, how come Nasdaq and MISE so huge capitalization and so attractive to the global investor. So from there, I started to know more about that and build my knowledge. And eventually, I advised the company to list in Nasdaq because there are a lot of benefit compared to other stock exchange.
Wow. And I feel like that people would benefit from knowing that there's a very big difference between being the CFO of a private company versus being the CFO of a public company, where your life is basically governed by, you know, every 90 days and getting the 10 Qs and the 10 Ks. Um, what would you tell us are some of the challenges that you had to overcome, or what was it like just learning about the public markets once you were in that chair?
Many people think about the biggest challenge or bigger things that they need to face is audit because like chasing the deadline like 90 days 120 days 10Q 10K. But in my point of view, right, audit is not the bigger challenge. The compliance is not the bigger challenge. The bigger challenge is connecting all the professionals into one team toward a same direction at the same timing. That is very challenging. Because in the private company, right, we don't have this kind of timeline. We don't need to engage PCOB auditors. We don't need to engage the US legal counsels. So there are no any connections or like the coordinations between the party in the private company. When the private company going into public, get listed in stock exchange, especially in Nasdaq, a lot of party across the world, we need to coordinate. And the coordination is very important because if without a proper coordination, right, all the party doing the ways differently, different directions, and will make the whole coordination, make the whole exercise, the corporate exercise, haywire, messy in very, very quick of time. So the coordination part is the most challenging part in my life, in my past experience as a CFO. That's why from there, I learned how to communicate, how to coordinate it. With this kind of experience, I bring to my clients as an IPO consultant to give them precautions because with this good coordination, you can make the thing move faster. Even those audit, we provide all the documentation, the requirements, the document requirement by the auditors. We know what to provide, and we train our clients to be prepared for this kind of the environment because they need it quick. If our auditors in US side, they will be like 1 day different, 12 hours different. So we need to ensure the efficiency and the effectiveness of the communication and the deliverable.
I think you raise a good point. I mean, a lot of people might just say it's not such a big deal in today's world with the time zone difference and being able to accommodate interacting between U.S. auditors and Malaysian executives. But I have to tell you, just from personal experience, it's not so easy. I feel like we are doing Zooms all the time with Hong Kong, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, and it's either 6:30, 7 a.m. Zooms or 11 p.m. Zooms. And for somebody like yourself that is trying to bring together all those different components, because I think that's probably what people need to understand is a big part of what you do. You're like the quarterback. You have to coordinate the company, the auditors, the lawyers, the bankers, the Edgar agents, the transfer agents. That's a
Yeah,
lot to coordinate. Do you
right.
do you do you keep crazy hours? I mean, what does a typical day look like for you?
Okay. In my past experience, right, we work over the clock. 9 to 6 a.m. at 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. in Malaysia time, we need to focus, build our portfolio, build our business to deliver whatever we promise in our public announcement, our prospectus, our annual returns. After 6, we need to wait until like 9 p.m. There will be the 9 a.m. in US. We need to talk frequently to our US legal counsel, especially on special M&A deal. We need to know better what we need to be prepared before we go into the deal. Then our auditors during that time is also US based. So we have a lot of communication happen after Malaysia working hours. But then for a CFO role, right, we are result oriented. That means that working over the clock doesn't matter to me because I'm very excited and I'm very patient to what I did and what I carry my duty as a CFO. So with that kind of experience, I learned a lot of things and established myself today as an advisor that can bring value to the client from very beginning, from insider as a CFO, know everything operation and also how to deal with those professional until I become an advisor. I can tell them, hey, actually you as a CFO or maybe you as a CEO, what you need to prepare and what you need to prepare in advance. And then on the current deal, what you need to being prepared for the external party. Yeah.
I think that anybody who hears you speak will hear the passion that you have towards this process and towards helping companies. I was curious, a question that I don't know if I've ever asked anybody or had confirmation, but people always ask me, why go public, right? Why does a company want to list on Nasdaq or New York Stock Exchange? So I personally have something that I came up with, which was called CAVE. So C is like currency, A is for acquisitions, V is for valuations, and E is for an exit or for the employees.
Awesome. I
But
learned
but
something.
I
Yeah.
was told, yeah, you can use that. But I was told that a lot of the foreign issuers, they have the money. Like they have the resources, whether they have it already or they know the right people in their country to raise the money. And so why then do they want to come to the US? Is it just because it's the world stage, or am I wrong? Or do they come to the US because they want to raise money? I just feel like a lot of times they already have the money. They're just coming to the US to tell the story.
Okay, so let me give you some insight from Asian market, especially in Malaysia. So there are a lot of requests of the request from the company to be listed in Nasdaq. One of the motivation is because the global market looking into investing into US capital. So because first of all, not only the prestige, the name of a listed co, but also the capital flow into the capital market, Nasdaq and NYSE is the best. What we can see from the market survey is the top one and top two. So this kind of very attractiveness of stock exchange, it attract not only Malaysia, I believe, it attract more like Indonesia, Singapore company. That's why Grab is listed in Nasdaq instead of in Singapore. So that kind of attractiveness bring all the company, the potential company, the real company to be listed in Nasdaq. So the capital flow is much more higher. The liquidations and also the valuations is become like quite attractive to the founder itself.
Interesting, interesting.
Mm.
Now, I get, I guess, sorry, I guess another part of your advisory services or the need that these companies have is not just the housekeeping, the preparation, the actual IPO, of course, but what about life after going public? I think that you've spoken or written extensively about IPO fundraising, but now these companies have an opportunity, but also a challenge of, should they do an ELOC financing? Should they do a convertible? Should they do warrants? Which bankers to work with. So tell us a little bit about life after going public.
Okay, that's great because many companies think that getting listed will be the end of the story. So
Yeah,
that's why they
that's
say,
it.
I
That's
want
the
to
end of the
see,
celebration
ring the
begins.
bell,
Right.
press the bell, and then there is a firework celebration in front of the Nasdaq Tower, or maybe ring the physical bell in MISE there. But then for me, right, getting listed is just a starting point because with that kind of door open for the global investor, global capital come in, the management shall very carefully use the capital and raise the capital carefully to expand the business to the M&A. Because with the capital market, with the capital from the global market, right? the amount considered very big compared to Malaysian ringgit. So the company have a lot of advantage compared to their competitors. So with a huge capital in their company, they can easily buy a very potential supplier in their business change, or maybe like their customer, to expand their portfolio, become bigger, and conquer the industry as a market leader with this kind of capitals listing in US.
Interesting. And
Mm.
and as somebody like yourself who has an opportunity to see all different types of companies and speak with all different types of industries, if you had to pick one industry right now coming out of Malaysia, whether it's solar or fintech or anything else, is there anything that stands out that is very hot in Malaysia right now that we in the US should be looking forwards to?
There are a lot of potential industry, but if you want me to specific one, I can put like a renewable energy industry. Okay, let me explain why renewable energies is become one of the hot topic in Malaysia. First of all, there are more and more data center being built, especially in Malaysia. When the data center being built in Malaysia, right, it requires few things. First, infrastructures. So there must be some infrastructure ready so that they can attract the investor, the data center come to invest. Secondly, the data center require energy. It require energy like green energy, solar, and so on. So that renewable energy will be one of the topic that always discussed in Malaysian market. This is something the first thing. Second thing will be the like um workers supply industry. So in terms of worker supply, because many constructions company coming in, they require a lot of workers, the blue labor workers from different country. For example, like others country outside from Malaysia, if there is an increasing demands in the foreign the foreign worker demands. So the foreign workers supply company service provider will be another hot topic in Malaysia. They are growing very fast. And what I can think the third industry will be like the AI and also IoT company. Because in Malaysia, right, we know that data center and a lot of good technology company also in Malaysia. So with a very strong IoT company, right, actually they're having a good business. Because why? Because with this IoT implemented in Malaysia, they can go to talk with the local manufacturer, because Malaysia have a lot of factory manufacturer. So the manufacturer need IoT and AI element. So there is an increasing demand in terms of this specific area. And there are a lot of service provider, especially IoT and AI is coming in. So these three areas that I think personally is a growing stage or growing industry in Malaysia.
Interesting.
Mm.
And not surprisingly, a lot of those same industries are what's hot here in the U.S. Um, but when you look at all the different companies that come to you for advice or for consulting, do you ever say to a company no? Like, do you ever say you're too early, or you're too big, or I don't think going public is right for you? And if so, like what are some of the reasons that you might say no to somebody?
We are technically not saying no. We will advise them to grow bigger in terms of, right, for example, their revenue and also their profit. So we won't stop them become our client. We will guide them before the IPO. For example, like grow their business. We bring the connections, bring their potential customer or potential strategy partners to be combined together, to work together, to build their portfolio become bigger. So we not simply say no, but we will definitely bring all our resources to help our client or potential client to grow bigger. That is our objective. Because if you want to find a company that already ready for US listing, right? I believe there are a lot, but then we want to grow Malaysian market. My ambition, basically, I have an experience. I want to bring more and more Malaysian company to be listed at Nasdaq or maybe NYSE. Definitely is a good company lah. What I can say, that is my basic requirements. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And when you talk about to use your resources, I would imagine that you and I are very similar in that we spend a lot of trying to introduce companies to the right circle of people,
Yeah,
investment
correct.
bankers, underwriters. I would imagine that you have quite the connections or the Rolodex here in the U.S. For companies that are looking to meet the right people. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yes, that is correct. So, because with my past experience and also very active, social networking with those professional, even those I did not the CFO, but then I participate in all the forums, all the conference across the world, like Singapore or maybe Hong Kong. Yeah, and
Yeah,
me
and
myself
I
also
think
conducted like seminar. Yeah.
that's a very good indication that the market is very busy right now, and it's about to get
Yes,
very,
correct.
very active, even more so because I don't have it in front of me, but I was looking at the conference schedule. I was going over it with David from my office, who I know and you've met.
Yeah.
Um, you know, September is, I think there are like 6 or 7 conferences all spread out between Japan and Hong Kong and Malaysia. Is like that's just a good indication that things are about to get busier. Um, I was curious, the SEC keeps talking about, especially recently, about moving towards a 24-hour trading day.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that in terms of how that impacts, your clients?
Okay, first of all, I think this is really a good news for all the listed company because the trading hour is not only for US specifically. When you open 24 hours, that means whole world, which part of the earth you also can trade Nasdaq share. So there will be attract more liquidations for the good company. The keyword is here is a good company. So a good company can be like a lot of liquidation because many people, different world also can trade. That is a good news. And then especially in Malaysia, right? So we will tell our clients, we will tell our prospect, our potential clients, we tell them that as long as you are good company in terms of you have good internal control, you have very good structures, and you have very professional team that along the way helping you, and you have very good board members from different regions that check and balance is happen there, then you can enjoy this kind of wave of the liquidations because more and more people are looking for a very good company, and this is the right time. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. I know that even our offices, we're looking at opening up offices in other regions so that we can support that 24/7. Well, let me ask you, Jaylvin. We want to be sensitive to your time, and you've given us a lot of insight so far. Let me just ask one more question. Is there anything that if you had to leave our listeners with sort of one piece of advice for their journey towards going public, whether it's domestic or international, what would you sort of leave them with in terms of some guidance?
Okay. If there will be one statement for me, for all the audience, right? I will say that don't wait until you perfect only get listed. You need to get ready and then grow over the time. Don't wait until you have a perfect resources, perfect team, perfect numbers, only get listed. There will be a bit late because your competitor will not wait for you. Your competitor will get listed first. So the advice for me is get the right candidate, get the right professional team, help you to restructure the whole things in a proper way and get listed fast. That will be my advice to the audience. Yeah.
You know what, Jelvin? That's great advice. And you may not know this, but you're basically saying what is a well-known statement here in the US, that perfection is the enemy of success. That if you keep waiting for perfection and perfection, you're never going to be successful because you're always waiting. You're waiting for the right time
Correct, correct.
and it comes and goes. So perfection is the enemy of success is a great tagline for you. Um,
Yeah.
I want to end by giving people your information if they want to learn more about you or reach out to you. Your company website is astuteall.com. Is that right?
Correct, correct.
Astuteall.com. Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you for the time. I hope that you'll join us maybe in 6 months. We'll rehash how the markets are doing. And maybe we'll bump into each other in the meantime at some of the international conferences. And
Definitely.
thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Seth.
All right, we'll be in touch. Take care.